Well, thank you so much for being here again. Some great panels that we've had so far. Another great one that we're about to have by our lovely moderator, Maja here, who's going to be talking everything blockchain, AI, and sustainability, ESG. Fantastic. Take it away. Let's give it a round of applause. Thank you.
Do we get that one as well? Yes. Okay. So I'll start. So as it was announced, now it's time to talk about AI, blockchain, and what AI and blockchain can do for ESGs and to support the ESG agenda. I am actually super happy to have this group of people sitting with me today, and aside of them being fantastic personalities, I'm happy because we are actually covering the entire scope of ESGs, starting from sourcing the energy itself to data, greenwashing and regulation. So we have everything covered. So without further ado, we have Mario, Jemma, Michele, and Michael. I'm not going to do any surnames because I'm going to butcher some of them. Because we have actually Italian mafia here. I'm just I'm moderating. I come in peace. So, guys, please, few minutes just to introduce yourself and projects that you're coming from, and then we'll just go straight into the topic.
Thank you. My name is Alberto Casiraghi. I'm the CFO at SingularityNet and co-founder at Singularity DAO. SingularityNet is one of the oldest crypto and AI projects. We launched in 2017 to build a decentralized network of AI applications and AI agents. More recently, we are undergoing now merger with two other large crypto projects, Fetch AI and Ocean Protocol, to form the ASI Super Alliance, Super Intelligence Alliance, and to foster the future of decentralized AI. We believe that AI should be decentralized in the contributions, in how it's run, and open source. So obviously, with the rise of LLMs, things are, exponential growth has come, and it's the right time to push for it to be open and for the benefit of the wider public.
Thanks. My name's Jemma Green. I'm co-founder and chairman of PowerLedger. We make software for tracking and trading electricity and trading environmental commodities like renewable energy certificates and carbon credits. We've been operating for eight years. We run public blockchain. We created a public blockchain called the PowerLedger chain, which was originally based on Ethereum, which we ran as a private consortium chain, and we made a decision to hard fork Solana about 2 years ago and adapted that further for the energy use case and made that public. We have our own token, the Power token, which is used to pay transaction fees to write data to the blockchain, and our clients are utilities and large corporates that want to track electricity for procurement and reporting purposes, and utilities that want to make new products such as peer-to-peer trading of electricity, new commercial models and new business models. And we were an Australian company, but 9 months ago we moved the company to Switzerland along with my family and my business partner and his family as well.
Thank you. Michele.
Hi, I am Michele Soavi, Chief Sustainability Officer at Impascope, where we leverage Web3 and artificial intelligence for sustainable solution. And we have two main projects we are working on. One is a decentralized marketplace for impact with a DAO component. And another one, which is already up and running, is AI and Web3 based greenwashing identifier. And on top of this, I want to mention as well the fact I'm a member, together with Maja, of the Sustainability Working Group at Crypto Valley Association, where for the last year, basically, we have been studying the intersection of blockchain, AI, and sustainability. Last year, we published a report, which you'll find on the internet site if you're interested. And yeah, the development is going on, therefore, keep an eye out for the site for more to come.
Thank you all. My name is Michael Borrelli, a director at AI and Partners. What we do is we're a professional services firm for companies subject to the EU AI Act. For those of you in the audience may know, it's a new regulation of AI coming into force this month or next. And we provide RegTech, software, advisory, and consultancy services. The inspiration behind this was GDPR implementation. So if you had the regulation of data, this is now the regulation of AI. So the analogous equivalent is there. To the extent it touches sustainability, I help write the standards which high-risk AI systems have to be conformed against, for example, to meet certain ESG criteria, sustainability, and address the consumption issues which the panel are probably going to touch on. Also an advocate of the work that Michele and the Crypto Valley Association do, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all.
Well, thank you, everyone. So in case someone was living under the rock lately, ESG is environmental, social government. There is a ongoing narrative. Is it agenda? Is it criteria? Whatever. But we know for sure that reporting is coming in place, and there is this entire narrative about investment in ESGs and so on. But to begin with, environmental part, I don't think we can talk about it without electricity and like resources for the energy part, especially like in AI factor, because AI is like on a hot seat regarding the energy usage and so on. So how decentralized and peer-to-peer energy trading can support ESGs to begin with? It's like a source.
Well, I mean, in terms of electricity, you know, it pretty much remained unchanged for like 100 years. And then about, 30 years ago, we started to put like distributed renewable energy into the system, but it was still run by like a centralized market. And the idea of decentralized and distributed energy is about creating local energy markets, so people can share energy and trade it locally, which is a nice thing that people like to be able to do. Share energy with your neighbours, give energy to your local school, but it actually has a functional purpose that helps the grid as well. Because if we all live on the same street and you have a battery, I have solar, and I'm not consuming all of my solar, I store it in your battery and buy it back at night, which I like. But the grid also likes that, because otherwise that electricity is being exported and creating congestion in the physical infrastructure. And if we actually create the market dynamics together, we can relieve grid congestion and avoid having to upgrade infrastructure like substations and transformers and capacitor banks. And then I think the other opportunity around decentralized compute and decentralized electricity is really co-optimizing those for low carbon outcomes, low cost outcomes as well. So I think there's going to be a really strong intimate link in that regard. So when I think about like ESG, S&G feels more like a cost center, whereas energy feels like, doing good, but also doing well. Like it's really like a huge business. And the amount, like people talk about energy transition, and I think that's completely the wrong phrase. We're really in a state of energy expansion. And it's actually always been that way. Every time there was like a new energy source, from like coal, to oil to gas, nuclear, etc. We just added those energy sources on top of all the other pre-existing energy. None of those disappeared. And so renewables is just a new addition into this energy ecosystem, and we're actually consuming ever more amounts of energy. And you can see from the growth trajectory of AI that that's going to become like a new energy-hungry sector. That's we're only just at the beginning, and it's going to be pretty profound.
Well, I guess that decentralizing very traditionally centralized environment is extremely challenging. Like, how much support do you get from?
Yeah, I mean, what I just said now makes it sound so easy, and I think thanks for it's so not like Uber, where you can just create an app and everyone can get on the road. Electricity is highly regulated, and all of the incumbent players make money from the system that it currently is. So there's a lot of resistance and entropy. Like when we set up the company, we were doing little lighthouse projects in different countries based on where there was interest. But we've had the business 8 years now. We were up into 15 countries operating demonstration projects, because an Indian company doesn't really care that you've got a project in France. They want to know if you can do one in India. And so you ended up having a lot of different demonstration projects, then you look at where's the opportunity for scale. And that's really a function of, with the regulation fit for purpose now, or is it changing? And so when we started to do that assessment along with the addressable market size, then we've just focused in on actually 5 jurisdictions this year. And that's Europe and India, which was in part why we moved the business to Europe, to be closer to the markets in which we operate as well. Like, I have a young family, and traveling from Australia to Europe regularly, was not the best.
The most practical thing.
Yeah, exactly. But I'd say that it's like it moves at a glacial pace, energy. But I think things like AI and that attention in the system, it actually will be catalytic to start thinking of new ways of doing things, because the cost of electricity now is so material now to the cost. And, you know, we're seeing things like, you know, offshoring of industries because it's at a threshold point. So I think that's going to necessitate more innovation than perhaps we've seen in recent years.
And then because you're combining blockchain in all of that, then you can trace. And then you can have like a certificate and kind of minimize greenwashing, for example, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, happy to bring my experience on basically trying to leverage both technologies at the same time. And just to give you an idea, we created this tool where we extract, you know, corporate communications, basically social media, financial reports, sustainability reports, to generate a qualitative and quantitative report on greenwashing. So, I mean, greenwashing is basically where greenwashing is the practice of, you know, overstating the environmental position of your company. And as there are a larger number of regulations which are coming out, sustainability reporting or European Green Deal, which, you know, they're somehow very heavy on regulation for the time being in European Union. They could punish you with up to 4% of your revenues if you fund doing greenwashing. And yeah, therefore, with the ability of using the AI component on the one hand to generate a report, and afterwards with the possibility to save the report on the blockchain, we are connecting the two worlds and two completely different paradigms. Because on the one hand, you know, you have the artificial intelligence, the black box, you get very nice results, but you don't really know much how you got such results. Whereas on the other side of the spectrum, you have the blockchain, you know, the permanent record, which is there, which is permanent, which cannot be changed. And therefore, in a way, we are working on creating some element of explainability on AI. You know, we are trying to pass from the black box to the white box from that perspective. And yeah, I think it's, there's a lot of complementarity to be seen there between the two technologies. And I think it just started in a way.
Okay. And then, like, we can't avoid the question of regulation. I mean, with the recent regulation from EU for the AI, but I get, again, I really want you to explain what you told me recently about AIwashing, which is super interesting to me, but also like reporting on ESGs. Is that being addressed by EU and standardized in any way?
So AIwashing, which is a term AI partners came up with, refers to, it's the equivalent of greenwashing. So greenwashing, as Michele stated, is you're overstating the environmental benefits of a product. In an AI term, you're overstating its trustworthiness, its security, explainability. It's not. So you're seeing a plethora of products in the market saying we're very trustworthy, we're very secure, when in fact you're not. So that is AI washing. How it leads into the great work there with reporting. So the AI use cases are growing. So you're going to have to report on ESG, and you can use AI to optimize that reporting process. Its capabilities to analyze large swaths of data are well known to the market. However, there is running a risk of something of a Pyrrhic victory. So if you're using AI to optimize reporting in ESG, you're meeting that. However, you could, the computational cost of running an AI system could actually exceed what you had done with the ESG reporting. So in essence, you're using something which is going to have a worse effect than you were originally started. So that's also an element to consider. Now, what we talked about with the EU AI Act, it's a risk-based approach to regulation. The best equivalent, again, is KYC, financial crime. Show of hands, who here has heard of KYC? Cool, most of you. So you have to basically identify your customer and risk classify it, because that determines how you treat them. The same thing happens with an AI system. Everything from a simple chatbot to a sophisticated generative AI product that BlackRock's using, for example, or investment managers are now using, you would have to risk classify it. It's KYAI. And it ties in with all these new regulations, because any use of AI would fall within scope of this. So if you used AI to comply with a separate regulation, bear in mind you still have to comply with this one. But happy to answer any questions if you guys have any on that.
So Mario, how's merge going? I'm joking. Another topic. Now we have all those things. How can we use AI, or can we use AI and all the existing infrastructure to potentially have AI standardize, for example, reporting, because it can pull all the information that's already on the blockchain?
I think Jemma said something very interesting. AI and with the manifestation of LLMs has been a catalyst also for many to start thinking about how to make things more efficient.
Yep.
Data is available, right? Data is available in secluded places somewhat, so you need to go and find it, or you need those larger entities or institutions that have that data availability to make it available. Once the data is made available, and you need to have the right incentives for people to want to process it and find a way to make things more efficient. Whether it's on energy or on supply chain, for example, right? So I think that with what's happening right now, this has been a catalyst for data to be more open by way of wanting to find a solution to things. And obviously AI by design, by the ability of solving problems, is able to find solutions, is able to make things more efficient. Now, we're just at the beginning of this, because LLMs are a very specific AI application, which is the one that is getting the most adopted right now, but it's text-based. So there's some constraints in the analytical part, where if you're more numbers or algorithmic based, you're still on reinforcement learning methods, which are the old ones. It also it's interesting because on one side it's a solution, on the other side it creates further problems, or it may, because it's very energy consumption is really high, right? So we're just starting now, and the need for compute is almost infinite. It's probably starting a super cycle that is going to last a decade and more of continuous increase of demand for compute, and compute needs power and needs a lot of it. And so we could use AI. We can use AI and things like Power Ledger to make energy usage and consumption more efficient. But also, what we want to do is make the use of the hardware more efficient, because right now the base model is heavily centralized, right? So we're going to servers, the big players, right, the big techs, but the usage of the capacity is not hyper efficient. Like oftentimes that hardware is unutilized, and so that's one of the things that blockchain can help with. So with the rise of distributed compute networks, for example, you can always go and tap into unused and idle power, which is a promise that has been there for a while. People have tried already in back in 2017, 2018, but now it's a major trend, and it's one that is becoming increasingly important because now the demand is actually there, the supply is actually there, and the demand is actually there. So creating marketplaces for AI compute, like marketplaces for energy, to try to make the supply chain more efficient is something that is highly valuable for sure.
Thank you. Jemma, something that you mentioned you worked in India, like the use case. So does it tackle somehow the social part? Like,
I think it does. Yeah, if you think about peer-to-peer trading, if I can only supply myself with energy with my rooftop solar, I'll put a certain size system in, but I might have a big roof. And if there's a market mechanism for me to sell it to you, then, that's allowing me to, basically monetize my roof space and generate more income for myself, which is a social benefit as well as like an environmental benefit in local energy, renewable energy, low carbon or zero carbon energy.
Gives me, on the other hand, the choice.
Exactly, and you might be renting and you are not allowed to put solar on your roof, so you can still buy renewable energy locally from your neighbours as well. So I think there's definitely many social benefits associated with local renewable power.
One question that I personally been thinking about is, so ESG is now super popular, even though it's not the term that's like 2 days old. But now this entire thing about ratings, when like companies, initiatives, everything is rated based on ESGs, how do we avoid, not maybe greenwashing, but avoid the scenario that we had with carbon credits? How do we keep the legitimacy of it? And is there like maybe blockchain AI can lift us to the next level?
Yeah, I have a bit of experience in this because I used to work in banking in ESG, like looking at companies and looking at ratings that other companies prepared for them. And I felt they had so many problems with like using those in any kind of meaningful way to make decisions. For example, like banks would typically think about like an oil and gas producer in Asia different to one in North America in terms of the environmental and social standards that you'd expect. And so you've got to take account of localization issues, or you might make different trade-offs between like social outcomes when the environmental standards aren't as high because it's going to provide economic development opportunities, notwithstanding perhaps the environmental standards are not the same as what you might see in high-income OECD countries. So I personally see like a lot of issues with these rating standards. It's a melange of factors that tries to give you one answer, but there are so many different things that are important to a situation, a bank or an organisation that's using them. So I think that they're quite fraught, and I'm not sure AI will solve all of that, but I'm interested to hear from the other panelists.
Yeah, if I can jump on it, sustainable finance, I think that's an interesting business, from the perspective of sustainability. Basically now, most of the investment are passing to asset managers, basically, and 50% of them, they claim to be sustainable, they claim to be ESG investing, they claim to be impact investing, with different objectives. And even though there's not a lack, of data or indicators, the problem is that very different ESG indicators provide very different results. And so it's difficult to understand, which one is right, which one is wrong. On the other hand, I think it's good that there is some variety in rating, because we all know, before the financial crisis, all the companies which had AAA rating, which finally were far from perfect. Therefore, it's good to have a bit of variety. But on the other hand, personally, the feeling is all this data world is still somehow too detached from the real world. And I think it's somehow still connecting to the question, okay, you have data on blockchain, and that's really nice up to the moment when the data is digital or that can be made fully digital. But on the other hand, I would say it's still a problem to make sure that what is happening in the physical world is properly reflected in the blockchain world. Now there are machine learning applications, for example, on GPS to study reforestation, forest coverage, and therefore we can create a better digital twin, between the real world and the blockchain world. But yeah, nevertheless, there must be a lot of discussion, and that's somehow surprising to hear, in sustainable finance conferences, people talking about biodiversity ratings. Luckily, the conversation is not anymore just on CO2, but start to talk about biodiversity, but the feeling is it's a very profitable and nice business, but the actual impact it's a questionable one.
Thank you. Michael, do you have anything to add, from the regulation perspective? Basically, can we hope on real standardization? Can we hope for?
I think it's achievable. So as I mentioned at the start, the role of standards is going to be huge in the EU AI Act. And ISO, IEEE, CENELEC, they're all going to be commissioned by the European Commission to build standards that high-risk AI systems have to conform against. So, for example, if you're building LLMs and they exceed a certain threshold for energy consumption, it's likely you won't be able to deploy that on the market. Equally, there's also a few initiatives which I've seen which are not necessarily enshrined in regulation but also have endorsement. For example, Stanford have developed something called the Foundation Model Transparency Index, which shows you how transparent a foundation model is against a plethora of metrics. So it's likely that we'll probably see these emerge in sustainability world to rate AI solutions on a benchmark to show how sustainable they are. The same thing happened in the crypto world, where I think the University of Cambridge actually did a study for Bitcoin to show the electricity consumption. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to see the same instruments arise in the AI world, because we're at the very inception of a transformational change for humanity, and we need robust sustainability mechanisms to support a new AI economy.
Thank you. Mario, basically you kind of opened the topic of AI is developing, and it's the need for compute and for the resources is not going to stop. So basically what we are seeing now is next industrial revolution whatsoever. So how do you see this going? Because on one hand, as an AI project or whatever, you really need resources to develop. On the other hand, there is this sustainability side. How to meet those two?
It is a good starting point to do it with in a decentralized setting, right? So as we identified, already distributing networks in different ways at least create a framework in which you can try to make things more efficient. And then, similarly to what we have to do with government agencies and universities and the wider world, also in AI, it's really important to start thinking about and speaking about ethics and how to use it, how not to use it. And that's true for the application side as well as for the infrastructure side. Obviously, it is a tectonic shift, and it's moving really, really fast. The amount of investment that is going into AI is not stopping. The speed of the pace of innovation is increasing. So they have to go in parallel, because we're gonna have to catch it as it runs. So from our perspective, again, we're doing it in a way that we really want it to be open, and we foster these discussions, we participate in these discussions, and being in crypto and leveraging blockchain, we're also exploring, for example, reputation systems. That could be a fluid way of utilizing some of the metrics and rating systems that we can come up with, but again, in a dynamic way, so not static, right? So it's also about the contribution to a certain network or the contribution to a certain framework that can be monetary or non-monetary, which is really important as well. And it can also be negative, so you can have negative incentives. So that's one very important thing that tied to incentive systems can create positive cycles in which communities of experts, alliances of big players, small players together can look for these solutions.
Yeah, obviously, like needs to be done as a joint venture.
Idea, yeah.
Our time is kind of ending, but anyone has any questions? Raise your hand. Use the opportunity. Yes, please. Yes.
At the beginning of the panel, Michele mentioned how Web3 could offer a security layer to AI, providing, for example, provenance and traceability across the process. I wonder to what extent, if at all, the on-chain identity plays out any importance in this workflow. And on this, I know that Michael mentioned the KYC, the importance of KYC, but then I wonder to what extent KYC may or may not address some privacy concerns within the on-chain identity debate. I know that two questions within one.
If I can reply quickly on my part, I feel like identity is one of the components. The other one, again, is maybe, saving your LLM model on the blockchain, saving your output on the blockchain. That's something that's happening. And at the end of the day, you can somehow connect the dots with a system of checks and balances. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not probably never be or very difficult to be really explainable AI, but everything helps, and we can somehow understand also history retrospectively by adding together all these components.
And to that point, it's going to be an interesting dovetail between them. So, for example, when you're doing KYC to open an account, but you're using, let's say, an AI solution to perform or help the verification, you're going to have to do KYC in the customer and KY AI on the AI solution. So you're going to have they're going to dovetail, and that's the whole point of you're using it to optimize, but be careful and know what you're using, especially when you have when you're doing it for sensitive purposes like screening people or interacting with personal data, because this touches on so many different areas of regulation. I don't think needs to be part of the conversation.
Any more questions? Just raise the hand. No. Okay. Then closing remarks. How do you see this going, and who is going to be that? Like, is the partnership with government institutions going to be key, or actually uniting projects like you guys are doing is going to push this collaboration with government? How?
I mean,
is it chicken and egg?
Yeah, a little bit. It has to be both sides, right? These are heavily regulated industries. So we can talk and try to do things from an independent and private sector perspective, but ultimately they need to be adopted, right? We spoke about standards, for example. We can have the best standards, but even in financial markets, we still use GDP as the center of everything, which is obsolete, to say the least. So we need the discussion between public and private to be to happen, but innovation tends to happen from the private sector. So it's definitely worth continuing.
In addition to our products, we're also leveraging our balance sheet and venture partnering and investing in other companies that are doing things complementary and exciting in the space. So that's another thing that we're doing to advance the conversation, and we're really interested in partnering with other entrepreneurs and founders and companies that could leverage our skills collectively for greater impact.
Thank you. Michele?
An important remark for me is related. Last week I was at AI for Good in Geneva conference, and I have the feeling that there's really no need to understand as well which kind of use cases are good for AI. Also realizing the fact that AI is very good for support. For example, in our case, we identify greenwashing, and it's okay to have some false positives. And it's not the case for every industry where everything can be fully automatized, and therefore as well, again, recognizing the importance of how can you support, how AI can support, or identifying, together which kind of use cases is super important, as well as understanding, the connection between blockchain and AI, because I think it's some way, to propel the two technologies together, because there's a lot of complementarity there.
And just to echo the thoughts there, say, learn lessons from one another. So the ESG brought a lot of good infrastructure in terms of reporting and getting down to that granular level that we need to demonstrate companies' performance. And AI obviously needs to follow a similar trajectory there. And avoid also the pitfalls that happen in the ESG. So avoid AIwashing at all costs. Make sure that if something takes a bit longer and you need to sacrifice or make a trade-off for the long term, do that, because once AI is fully embedded and present across the business, it's going to be very difficult to turn back. So take the initiative early, and it will make your life easier in the long term.
Thank you. Then I'll just close with my own opinion for what it's worth. I think that we have better chances if we unite and then chase the government to support us than just going individually project by project. So you're starting with a big merger, so maybe we can all learn from that. It will be the most. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you.